This is the data overview for North Paulding High School. I'm Lauren Marone, and this presentation was created for ITEC 7305 Data Analysis and School Improvement at Kennesaw State University in the summer 2018 semester. This presentation is intended for the school improvement team at North Paulding High School, and this presentation is taking place during July 2018. The purpose of this presentation is to analyze Georgia milestone assessment data for physical science to determine strategies for student improvement in that class. First up, we're going to look at the school demographics for North Paulding. Our total enrollment has increased over the past 4 years, rising from just under 2,000 students up to about 2,200 students in the 2016-2017 school year. As our total enrollment has increased, so has each of the grade levels for the most part. Each year, they are getting slightly larger than the one prior. When you disaggregate our enrollment by race, you can easily see that the predominant race at North Paulding is white. This has slightly decreased over the past 4 years from just under 76% white students down to 73% white. We have about 13 to 14% African American or Black students at our school. Around 1% of our students are Asian, and our Hispanic or Latino population has risen from about 8% up to 9% over the past 4 years. When you break down our enrollment by whether or not the students are economically at disadvantage, you can see that we have actually decreased the percentage of students who are economically disadvantaged, despite the fact that we are increasing in enrollment. So we have dropped from just under 21% of students being economically disadvantaged down to 19% of students being economically disadvantaged. As for students who are receiving special education services, we are seeing an increase in that from about 8% in the 2013-2014 school year up to almost 10% by the 2016-2017 school year. So as our population is increasing, our percentage of students receiving special education services is also increasing. As for English language learners, we only have a few students that are English language learners despite our large enrollment. The percentage of English language learners is less than 1%, and while it appears that it has fluctuated over the past few years, since these are all under 1%, there really hasn't been much change in this area in our school population. As for our mobility rate, our percentages have slightly fluctuated within about 2 percentage points. We have generally anywhere from 130 students moving in or out up to 180 students a year. As for our dropout rate, for the most part, it's been around 1.3% each year. There was a peak in the 2014-2015 school year of 1.6, but we have hovered right around 30 students dropping out per school year. As for our retention rate, it has hovered around 3%, as you can see in this line graph, and has fluctuated back and forth each year with a rise and a drop, but it has been rather steady around that 3% mark of students being retained. As for students' attendance, we do have a high percentage of students missing less than 5 days of school per year. However, we have seen an increase in the number of students missing over 17 days per school year, so that is rather alarming. Next up, we're going to look at the faculty demographics. Over the past 4 years, our number of teachers has increased to keep up with our growing student population. We've increased from 89 teachers up to 111 teachers. When you break down our faculty by race, you will see that the staff is not very diverse, with our teaching, almost all of our teachers being white, and we have very few African American or Hispanic teachers on our staff. When you disaggregate the faculty by gender, however, you will see that things are more evenly split. Even as our number of teachers has increased, the breakdown of males and females has remained pretty much 50-50. When you disaggregate the staff by their degree level, our teaching staff predominantly will have either a bachelor's or a master's degrees. However, there is been an increase in the number of teachers with specialist and doctorate degrees as well, showing that our teachers are working to improve their practice by seeking higher degrees. As for years of experience, majority of our teachers have between 1 and 10 years of teaching experience. However, there has been a growing number of teachers that are between 11 and 20 years of experience. Next up, we're going to take a look at the physical science test data. Physical Science Georgia Milestone in a course is an assessment that's given at the end of the physical science course. And since we teach this course on a block schedule, the test is given in both December and May. And the class is typically taken by 10th grade students. However, there may be students from other grade levels enrolled in the course for various reasons. Georgia revamped its end of course test into milestones test. This changed the content and style of the test, as well as changing how the data and results were reported on the test. It went from 3 categories into 4. As you can see in these tables, this is comparing the last 3 years of the old test versus the past 3 years of the new test. As you can see, we used to score very well on the old test, with majority of our students scoring at meets or exceeds level on the old test. Then once the new test took effect in 2014, 2015, we had a huge number of scoring at the beginning level, which kind of equates to what was does not meet. Since the test was redesigned and how the scores are reported has changed from this point forward in the presentation, we're only going to be looking at the past 3 years because that is the same test. And we really can't look at a trend on the test data when including that 4th year, that is when the old test was offered. So for the past 3 years, here is a breakdown of our physical science milestone test results, broken down by the level they scored at. So you'll see majority of our students are scoring at the beginning and developing level on this test, and very few are scoring at the distinguished level. So when we put that into a line graph, you can see the trends better. You will see a decrease in the number of students that are scoring at the beginning level, which that is positive since we want them moving to higher levels. There has been an increase in those scoring at developing. There has overall been an increase in those scoring at the proficient level, and there has been a slight increase in those scoring at the distinguished level. Next, we're going to compare North Paulding to the state of Georgia and the Paulding County School District. These tables show us the breakdown of the number of students and the percentage of students scoring at the different scoring levels. This data is easier to analyze when it's put into graphs. So these 4 graphs show us a breakdown of the percentage of students scoring at the different levels. And you can see that North Paulding here is in blue, the Paulding County School District is in red, and green is the state of Georgia. So at the beginning level, we have decreased the number of students overall scoring at that level, whereas the district and the state has as well. But we, in general, are having more students scoring at that level than the state is. When we drop down to the proficient level, we are being really outperformed by the state. Versus we have improved in that area, but the state has improved as well, and overall has a much higher percent of students scoring at that level. And as for distinguished level, we are being really outperformed by the state. While we have seen a slight increase at our school, and so has the district, the state is performing overall at a much higher level there. First up, we're going to disaggregate the test data by gender for the past 3 years. These 3 tables show the number and percentage of student based on their gender and what level they scored at. When we're taking the last table and putting it into graphs, we get these 4 graphs that show the percentage of students scoring at the different levels based on whether they're male or female, and the blue line being males and the red line being females. Overall, we can see that more females are scoring at the beginning level than males, but we do see a similar trend in how the percentages change. As for the developing level, we see again similar trends between both groups, with more males scoring at this level. And then for proficiency, again, we're seeing similar trends, but males are outperforming females in this group, and same for the distinguished level. We are seeing, again, males outperform females. Next, we're going to disaggregate the data by race. So these 3 tables break down the number and percentage of students scoring at the different levels based on their race. And we can more easily examine this data through the use of line graphs. So these 4 graphs show the percentage of students scoring at the different levels. The blue line is Black or African American students, the red is Hispanic, and the green is white students. Overall, you will see some similar trends, such as at the beginning level, we do see a decrease overall in all groups scoring at that level. However, there is a higher percentage of Hispanic students scoring at that level overall and Black students scoring at this level than there are white students. As for developing, we do see improvement for all three groups. At the proficient level, however, we see a greater improvement in our white students overall than our Hispanic or our Black students. And at the distinguished level, we only have had white students score at this level and no Hispanic or Black students have scored at the distinguished level. Next, we're going to disaggregate the data by students with disability. So these three tables show a breakdown of the number and percent of students scoring at the different levels based on whether or not they have a disability. This data is more easily examined through the use of graphs. So these four graphs show a breakdown of the percentage of students scoring at the different levels based on whether or not they have a disability. So the blue line is a student with a disability and the red line are students without disabilities. You will see at the beginning level, our students with disabilities are scoring predominantly at this level with a slight increase over the past 3 years, up to 75% of our students with disabilities scoring at this level. Students without disabilities are outperforming our students with disabilities. As you can see, there's been an improvement in our students without disabilities at the developing level as well as the proficient level, versus there's been a decrease in the number of students with a disability scoring at those levels. Now we're going to look at the milestone test data disaggregated by socioeconomic status for the past 3 years. These three tables break down the number and percentage of students based on whether they are economically disadvantaged or not, and shows how many students scored at the different levels. This data is more easily examined through the use of line graphs. So these four graphs break down the percentage of students scoring at the different levels over the past 3 years. The blue line is the economically disadvantaged students and the red line is the non-economically disadvantaged students. As you can see, there are more students scoring at the beginning level who are economically disadvantaged than there are their non-economically disadvantaged peers. However, they are following the same trend. As for developing learners, we are seeing the same trend overall. There is improvement in this area. However, there are more non-economically disadvantaged scoring at that level. As for proficiency, we are seeing a similar trend among the two groups. However, there are more non-economically disadvantaged scoring at the proficient level here as well. Overall, we can identify several strengths and weaknesses from this data analysis. For an area of strength, we see that overall there is a decrease in the percentage of students scoring at the beginning level, dropping from about 50% to around 37%. This is a positive change because we want students scoring at the higher levels of proficiency and distinguished. There's also been an increase in the percentage of students scoring at the proficient level from just under 10% up to 16%. As for weaknesses, we do have a overall low percentage of students who are scoring at proficient and distinguished levels. While we're seeing an increase in the number of students scoring at the proficient level, we still have an overall low percentage of students scoring at this level. Another area of weakness is that our students with disabilities are not improving. We had 75% of our students with disabilities score at the beginning level in the 2016-2017 school year. So this is definitely an area of weakness. And overall, males are outperforming females on the physical science milestone test. So our key areas for academic improvement are to improve the overall instruction so that all students are scoring at least a developing level, but ideally we want them scoring at a proficient and distinguished level. Another key area for academic improvement is to look at our instruction for our students with disabilities. As we are seeing an increase in enrollment in this course of students with disabilities, we need to be better accommodating those students and differentiating our instruction to better fit their needs so that they are scoring at a higher level on this exam. And then we also need to look at strategies to help diverse groups of students, such as our low socioeconomic students and our female students, better succeed on this exam. So our next step is to look at how we can improve instruction to help students with disability succeed in physical science. We need to look at what strategies can we utilize to help students of diverse groups such as female and low socioeconomic students succeed in physical science. And we also need to look at how we can improve the overall physical science class to achieve better overall results. All the data from this presentation was retrieved from the downloadable data site from the Georgia government website.